Welcome to Detroit's Darkest Times. Click like, click share. I'm about to take you there. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Today's segment is attempted robberies, deaths, shootings, things of that nature. Before we get started, we want to tell you that these stories happened years back. All parties involved has been arrested for their crimes, has paid their dues to society. Some have lost their life during the process, and some are no longer here anymore. So that being said, let's get into it. First thing I want to start off with is one time I'm working on a construction site, and we take a lunch break, and then everybody's just eating and sitting around talking about different things. And then this one cat, he starts telling a backstory of his that happened a few years back at the time he was telling the story. But now I'm telling the story, and it's happened many years back. But anyways, I'm working at this construction site. We're taking a lunch break. We get done eating, so we're just passing time till it's time to start back to work. And everybody's just going on about different things. Well, this one cat, he tells us a story that happened to him years back. And what he says is, he says he was living in St. Elmo. He didn't have a job. It was getting close to Christmas time. And he had an old lady and some kids. And he said he was watching TV, and he just was really feeling down on himself, and he was contemplating on what to do to have a good Christmas, And I'm sure a lot of people's been in this boat, but this dude's story really stuck with me. But he says he's in his house, in his living room. He's watching TV. And he's trying to figure out what he can do to have a good Christmas for him and his family. So then he thinks about, maybe I should rob the bank, the local bank. And this is a crazy story. Excuse me. But he says he's thinking about it very hard, and he's watching TV. And then he says he thinks about it for about an hour. And then he decides he's going to go do it. So he gets up, he gets ready, he heads to the local bank in St. Elmo. And he holds the bank up. Now, I don't know for sure if he just did it. I can't remember if he said he did it just with the letter, or with a weapon. I'm not for sure, but he did go hold the bank up. And then he got some money, and he said no sooner than he got out the front door, the police tackled him to the ground. And I do believe he said he ended up getting like 3 years for it. And that's another incident that I wanted to share with y'all, because that's just another thing that's happened that somebody had thought about. But this guy was down on his luck and everything, and he just was spurred of the moment, you might as well say, and decided he was going to go do this, and I guess just see if he can get away with it. You know what I mean? But he says as soon as he gets out the front door, the police are out there waiting, and they tackle him to the ground, and then he gets arrested. But I thought that was a crazy story because, you know, we was all sitting around, you know, telling stories that things happened in the past, but his story really took the cake that day, you know. But that was one situation that guy went through and stuff like that, being down on his luck and just trying to, you know, try to figure out how to have a good Christmas. So that just goes to show you that, you know, sometimes when you think about a way to get some quick money and it's illegal, it's not going to work out, you know. So make sure you make good decisions and stuff like that. And in this day and time, there's so many different ways to get money that's not illegal that, you know, people can pretty much survive depending on what their condition is. But I just wanted to share that story with you. And also, there's another thing that happens in Detroit City years back when the drug game was big. And the drug game's still active right now, but it's nowhere near what it used to be back in the day. Anyways, you had a lot of cats hustling to make money, doing all different types of things. But the ones who was pulling the most money was the people involved in the drug trade. Now, we don't recommend this for anybody, but we're just telling you a story that happened years ago. So, the people in the drug trade was actually pulling tons of money, you know, had different crews and stuff like that. Well, then you got this one guy that comes up with this idea with his crew, and he's got a small crew. But he comes up with this idea. He's like, how about we, instead of hustling drugs, how about we just go around and rob the drug dealers? You know, so that's what these cats do. They figure, you know, why hustle and, you know, try to make sales all day and all that, you know. They just decided to leave that to the other guys, and then they was just going to do the quick snatch, which was rob the drug houses, you know, that's had all the money in. And so these cats, what they do, they get a van, and they actually scope these places out. Some of the places they know where the places are at, but in some of them they scope them out and make sure that is the house and all that. Then what they do is they get them some like windbreaker jackets that says police on the back of them. And then what they do is they act like it's going to be a raid, and then they go in and they rob the drug houses. And they was getting a lot of money, doing that. Then the word gets around, and then they try to, after they did so many of them, the word gets around, so now people's kind of alert and ready. So then they try to hit this one drug house, and the guy's ready, And the other drug house people, they wasn't ready. They thought it was really the police, but it really wasn't. It was just these guys acting like the police and just robbing the drug houses just for quick cash. Way back in the day. So anyways, they bust in this guy's place. This guy has a gun. He starts firing at them. So they rush out. They rush out, and one guy gets hit. And so they take off, and they usually park. They don't usually park right in front of the place. They usually park in an alley or on the corner or something like that. And so anyways, they jet out because the guy's shooting back at them, and one guy gets hit, and then while they run along the side of the house to the alley, one guy falls to the ground because he got shot, but it actually killed him. So them guys couldn't go back to get that guy. They had to take off. So later, the police come to investigate what happened. They see this guy on the ground with a windbreaker on it, says police on it. So at first they're thinking it's a police officer at the beginning, but then they figure out that that wasn't the case, and they figure out that these cats were just going around robbing people and just posing as the police. You know what I mean? So anyway, that cat loses his life, and them other guys get away. But that was just something that was going down in Detroit City back in the day, And you had a lot of shootings in Detroit, and it was over different things. It would be, drug dealers at each other or whatever, and then it would be people just having beef on the street, stuff like that. Or it would be a crew trying to take out another crew, just, basically for greed, you know what I mean? And things of that nature. So a lot of people lost their lives during that time. And they would just actually shoot the person. They would take all their money. They would take their car. They'd take everything. And it was just the way it was going down in Detroit back in the day. But it was like the Wild Wild West, you know what I mean? It was just shootings all the time. It was not abnormal to hear gunshots all the time and stuff like that, because that's the way it was way back in Detroit City. And this is a different time, right now. And actually, Detroit is growing in a positive way. A lot of people's moving back that way. And Detroit City has a lot of good stuff to offer in today's time. But I'm just discussing years back, things that happen on the streets, and people have got shot for the kind of tennis shoes they was wearing. People's got shot for the winter coat they had. Like back then, it was the Max Julie jackets. A lot of people liked them jackets. And at that time, I do believe they cost like $250 at that time. And this is a long time ago. And so people were getting shot for all different kinds of reasons, for shoes, for jackets, for jewelry, for money, for cars, you name it. If you had something real good and somebody wanted it back in them days, they was going to take it at all costs. You know what I mean? So over the years, a lot of people just got wise and just know not to floss too much. You know what I mean? Because you could have a lot of stuff and just act like you ain't got a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? And then you can maneuver like that. And then over the years, the drug task force, the drug dealers, and people in the drug game, they was just putting a bullseye on them basically, because what they were doing is they had a lot of gold on, dressed really well, had very nice cars and stuff like that. And that just basically put a bullseye on them as far as the drug task force to know exactly what they're doing, you know what I mean? And actually conduct a investigation on them. And there was just a very few, and I mean a very few, that would be in the streets and in the drug game and not floss. So, these people, basically make it through, and at the end of the rainbow, they just made it through by not flossing, not showing everything they got, and things of that nature. There's just a whole lot of things that happened in Detroit City way back in the day, And now they make movies about all the stuff and stuff like that. So it's not really new news, but some people in different places maybe never even heard of Detroit City. You know what I mean? So we share it on our channel because it's just old news. Everybody's passed away. It's many years back, and things of that nature, So it's just an educational thing for people today, that if you are in the streets, and especially if you got a car, a nice car, fancy car, or something like that, they're up on that game. You know what I mean? So it's just, if you want to floss, go ahead and floss, but just know that they watching you and they're going to get you eventually. And but it's just part of the game, basically. Everybody that's been in it has got caught, or they've lost their life, or something of that nature. You know what I mean? Or they went to jail for many years, like 30 years, 25, 30 years, something like that. So, in this day and time, that game is over with. People might be doing it, but that game's over with, And it's just, there's just so many different ways now to make legit money that, we recommend you don't even waste your time doing that kind of stuff. Because today's time, it ain't gonna go down like you think it's gonna go down. And at today's time, when you get caught, it ain't nothing like years back where people used to get 2 years or 3 years or something like that. If you get caught today, you're liable to lose your whole entire life. So you need to really think about that. And if you're in a good position right now and you've been in the streets, go ahead and stop while you got a chance. Because if not, you're gonna get took down eventually, you know. And here at Detroit's Darkest Times, we're not ragging the street dudes and we're not ragging, people, but we're just trying to let you know the history that happened years back. So at least you heard it, you know what I mean? Some people listen to this, they might be like, "Oh, that dude's tripping" or whatever. But if we give you the message and you don't take it, and because I'm not the only one putting the message out there. There's many people doing it, and you know that the consequences is going to be drastic if you get caught, and you keep on continuing to do what you're doing. Just know that be ready to man up and pay the consequences. You know what I mean? Because basically, this channel is just bringing awareness to people, and the younger generation, stuff like that, to let you know that, a lot of people think there's good money in the streets and stuff like that till they get caught. And then once they hear like a 25, 30-year sentence or something like that, they wish like hell they never did it, but then you can't turn back time. You know what I mean? So if anybody's in the streets right now doing dirt and stuff like that, our advice to you is to stop doing what you're doing and try to go straight and live a good life. And then you won't have to worry about doing 25, 30 years and all that. You know what I mean? Because it's just not worth it. You know what I mean? And you can thank me later because, some people might be listening to me and say, "Oh, this guy's crazy." But then some people might be like, "Well, damn, this guy's, seen it and stuff like that. So he knows what he's talking about." You know what I mean? So that being said, we just want to put out a good positive vibe for people and just let you know that the best way to do things is just, do things legit. There's so many different opportunities out here today where you really ain't got to do nothing to break the law. So if people are doing something to break the law, you're wasting your time. There's so many different ways to make money. You just and you'll regret it later on once they throw 25, 30 years on you. You know what I mean? So we just want you to think about it. And these stories that we give are true stories, things that really happened, and things of that nature. So we're just glad we're able to explain things that happened years back to the newer generation. So at least they know about it, and then they can, they can justify, because everybody's their own man. They can justify whether they want to keep rolling like that or if they're just want to go legit, Or people listen to this may not even be involved in nothing like that, but we're basically just telling you the past history of the streets of Detroit. You know what I mean? And it's all the things that took place. Because there's just a ton of people that lost their lives during that time, and it just ain't worth it. You could just live a long life and enjoy life if you just go legit. So, and I will be honest about this situation. They are, just from what I see, they are tons of people, and I mean tons of people, that are doing legit things in this day and time. So it's really made an effect on people, versus everything that's in the pile, whether it be movies showing about the past, whether it be YouTubers talking about the past, or uh, things that happened to members in your family a long time ago that that you don't want to go through what they went through. You know what I mean? So, that being said, just fly right and you can thank me later. This is Detroit's Darkest Times, and we're out.